Hey there, this is Teagarden with episode 23 of the Unveiled podcast. Continuing with our theme of letting go, today's episode is about letting go of being right. And I know that's not what you wanted to hear because often we are right, right? When Grant and I were preparing to move from California to Georgia, we had very different ideas about how to go about it, and it caused some friction. Our first friction came with each other when Grant was upset with me that I wasn't packing boxes in October for a May move. In my mind, I didn't want to live in box land in our 1,300 square foot house for 7 months. And most of what we owned, we used regularly, so I didn't want it packed away. But I did tell him I will get to it later. I was purging and researching moving options at the time, which to me seemed like a higher priority. Plus, life was still really busy. There was only so much time to fit in the moving stuff. Well, over several months, Grant got more and more irritated with me because I was busy with the everyday stuff of living with two busy teens and I wasn't working on the moving project. I assured him that I was working on it almost every day. He disagreed, and there seemed to be like this wall between us that I couldn't fully understand. Couldn't he tell that I was working on moving? Why was he so upset? We still had many months to go. I felt that I was right, and he felt that he was right, and the air was actually getting a bit tense. Finally, in January, I had the wisdom to ask him why he didn't think I was working enough on moving when I kept telling him all the things that I was doing. And he could see there was purging, he could see empty boxes that I'd been collecting. Well, he said because there were no boxes packed. Aha, an aha moment. So I asked him, so if you see boxes packed, you'll feel better? And he said yes. So while I didn't think we should start packing yet due to our space limitations, I realized that I didn't have to be right. If packing some boxes and moving my car out of the garage to stack them in the garage made my husband less stressed, well, then that was worth it. I didn't have to be right. So I started packing up books and things that I hoped we wouldn't need. And that seemed to make him happier for a while. Sometimes we can let go of being right to accommodate the needs and desires of someone else. We can try to put ourselves in their shoes and see things from their point of view. This clearly wasn't a moral issue. There really wasn't a right or a wrong answer here. So it's good to ask yourself, does it have to be my way? I may still think my way is better, but is that just my opinion? Can I humbly give a little for the sake of peace and respect? Is there really a right or wrong here? Well, things were better for a couple of weeks until we started talking to the realtor about when to sell the house. The realtor said March is a great month to sell houses for more money, so that is what they suggested. And my husband was totally on board with that. I, on the other hand, was thinking about how hard this all was on our kids and having to move out of our house by March and live somewhere temporarily. It just didn't seem like a good plan to me. My kids were performing in a musical in March, and that takes a lot of time and energy, and I couldn't figure out how to move in the midst of that. I wanted to sell the house in late May, right before we moved. Well, this now explained why he wanted me packing boxes earlier than I did, because in my mind, everything needed to be packed by May, but in his mind, it needed to be packed by the end of February. Aha, different goals. So that's another reason that you may not be seeing eye to eye. It's important to clarify what the goal is when you're at an impasse with your husband, because what I was doing may have been right for my goal, but not for his goal. So once again, we both felt that we were right. And this time, I did not want to budge. I felt very strongly about protecting our kids and making this move less hard on them and on me. And I felt that my sanity could not take moving out of my house into a temporary place and do a musical all in the same month. There was also renovations that had to be done on the house. But my husband felt very strongly about going with the realtor's advice and getting the most money for the house. Now, from an outside perspective, since you're objective, you can probably see that we both had valid points. Either of us could be right from a certain point of view. And that's the point again. There isn't always a right or a wrong. You may both be right from whatever point of view you're looking from. It's really a matter of perspective. What happens though in these situations is both of us feel we aren't being heard. And that is how it feels. But the reality is that you hear each other, you're just disagreeing, and neither one is able to convince the other one over to their viewpoint. Well, I hate to say we didn't resolve this well. I'd like to have a great story. But God ended up resolving it for us. So stay tuned for that part of the story. Grant confronted me one Sunday morning and he asked why I wouldn't just trust his wisdom and judgment. In other words, back down and trust me. And I once again articulated my heart and my reasons. So we kind of ended up compromising on, okay, let's sell it in April. That gives us, past the musical, but it's still early. I don't think either one of us were very happy with that though. He felt like it would cost us money, and I felt like it only solved the musical problem, but not the twice moving and moving early. So March came, and if you remember, March of 2020, everybody does, with it came a pandemic and a global quarantine and the stopping of all house sales and renovations and everything. So God clearly had a different plan. We ended up selling our house in July. I actually found that really funny, that we had argued and felt disconnected and stressed over something that in the end we had absolutely no control over. And this happens too. Sometimes you feel you are right when you really have no control, so you may as well let that go. I think it's important to note though that we both felt very strongly about our positions. So what should you do, or what should we have done in that situation? Well, we probably should have looked at both of our goals and been clearer about those and asked the Lord to show us a solution that would meet or mostly meet both needs, or show us an entirely new perspective. Like, yeah, don't worry about it. Something else is happening. God's perspective. I do remember praying about the situation, but I don't remember that I asked God and then sat and listened for his answer or his solution. When you have an impasse, lay down the need to win or be right. Surrender the situation to God and then work together to find a mutually beneficial solution, a win-win-win. We call this the policy of joint agreement. And the best way to start this process is to ask a lot of why questions. Ask yourself and your spouse, why do you think this is the right way? Their answer may surprise you. It may not be what you think it's going to be. Then ask why of that answer, and then ask why again. 3 layers deep of why will usually help you begin to understand what the other person is really thinking and feeling. For example, if my husband had asked me why I wanted to wait to sell the house, I would have answered, to minimize the disruption to our lives and because I don't know where we would live in the meantime, and that would cost money too. If he had said, why do you want to minimize the disruption? I would have answered, because this is really hard on our teens and I don't want to make them move twice. Also, this is our daughter's senior year of high school and I want her to enjoy it. It's hard to decide what to pack for the temporary place and what not to pack. It seems easier just to pack up everything once. Less stress and less work. If he then asked why I was so worried about the kids and disrupting them, I probably would have answered, because I already feel guilty that we are making them move across the country away from their friends. And so you can see now, there's the really deep reason. I felt guilty and I wanted to minimize any further guilt. Now that's not healthy, but it's raw and real. And you can see how that would bring some empathy and understanding of myself and my husband, understanding me better. When we open up and get really to the heart of the issue, we can understand each other better. And if we did the same thing with questioning him, I would have gotten more information as well, like how much he was looking forward to transitioning from his engineering job and how more money in the bank would help him feel better about pulling the trigger to do that, what he was really feeling deep down. It's so important to take the time to do this, to really understand where each other is coming from and why. And to do it humbly, not with a defensive posture. When we insist that we are right, we shut down communication and problem solving. Now, obviously, if it's a moral issue, there is a right and a wrong. If something doesn't line up with the Bible, like cheating on taxes or pornography, okay, then it's wrong. But most of our disagreements where we both feel we are right are generally not over moral issues. Sometimes asking a mutual friend for advice can give an outside perspective. They may be able to come up with an idea that would satisfy both because they aren't stuck looking at it from just your perspective or the other person's perspective. I can tell you, though, that God always has a good plan, so ask Him to make it clear. Proverbs has some very direct verses about us thinking that we are right. Proverbs 12:15. A fool's way is right in his own eyes, but whoever listens to counsel is wise. I know we all want to be wise. Proverbs 16:25. There is a way that appears to be right, but in the end, it leads to death. Again, it may seem right, but maybe it isn't. Proverbs 18:17. In a lawsuit, the first to speak seems right until someone comes forward and cross-examines. Very true. Proverbs 21, verse 2. A person may think their own ways are right, but the Lord weighs the heart. He looks at our motives. Clearly, the wisdom of Proverbs is letting us know that what seems right isn't always. I need to be humble enough to accept that maybe I'm not right, or maybe there is no clear right. So the bottom line, let go of the right to be right. Next time both you and your spouse feel that you are right and the other is wrong, try taking these steps. First, examine your heart motives and realize there is likely not a right or wrong. Secondly, clarify the goal. Make sure you both have the same goal. If not, that may need to be adjusted. Third, listen to your spouse's heart on the matter and ask several layers of why questions. Seek to understand their heart and humbly accept that they may have wisdom in this situation. Fourth, go to God for His perspective and listen to wise counsel from friends. Seek a win-win-win, which means a win for you, a win for your spouse, and a win for your relationship. Because a win-lose is really a win-lose-lose. I hope that you found this episode practical and helpful. If so, please click the like button, subscribe by clicking on the subscribe button, and you can click on the little bell if you want YouTube to notify you of new episodes when they come out. And please share this with your friends and bless them as well. Leave a comment of any time you realized you weren't right after all, or God overruled you like He did us. Remember, you are loved. You are enough. You are beautiful. You are worthy. You can soar on eagle's wings. Go in peace.